morning, treasure seekers. This is Blake coming to you live from New Mexico, and joining me as always from Washington State, it's Bryn and Cody. How's it going, guys?
Happy holidays, everyone. Doing well.
Happy holidays.
You would think after a year we would have some sort of finesse to we know the question's coming. Things are
Bryn
going
and
well.
I are in our league's semifinals for fantasy football, playing this weekend.
Cody, you want me to ask you? Oh, how's it going, Cody? How's it going?
It's going well.
Dork.
It's not the holiday spirit.
I'm salty. I should have won. Cody has beat me. So I will not be progressing to the finals. I will say I won the last 2 years though. So
yeah, you were dangerously close to winning 3 years in a row, which feels like an anomaly, like just crazy. Because even if someone is like an expert at football, it's like just the odds of winning 3 years in a row with all of the variables and uncertainty. It's crazy. So you are a very, very good fantasy football player.
Let me tell you, I led the league in our other league that we play in, and I very much should have made it to the finals as well, and I did not. Salty about that as well. But let me tell you my fantasy football secret, a little nugget for the community. When drafting players, my strategy is to only pick players that are very happy, smiling, and enthusiastic in their picture. Because it means you are acquiring a great team player on your fantasy football team who will be a positive attribute to your team. Great locker room presence, great sideline presence. Overall, a wonderful person to have around.
Excellent intangibles.
Excellent intangibles.
Bryn drafts on intangibles.
And it has worked remarkably well for me. I made money last year on the other league. So far, excellent success. Take note.
All right. ESPN will send them that clip so you can get on their analysis show.
Only players that smile.
All right. Should we have a quick advent calendar update?
Yes.
Are you guys up to date?
We are.
Speaking of topics that people love to hear about at the beginning.
It's okay. They can skip it.
So the last week of advent calendar, which again is the Exit Escape Room advent calendar, the intergalactic race for those playing along at home. If you missed out this year, highly recommend it for next year. It's been excellent, I would say, so far. We had a line up the doors. Remember that? We had a humming day.
Yeah.
You guys do okay on that one?
We did. Yes.
Okay. There was a digital clock puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
There was stars.
That was Digital clock was my favorite puzzle.
Okay.
To date. And the line up the doors was Bryn's favorite puzzle to date. We had just talked about this recently, which one of our favorites were.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, I for line up the doors, I had been keeping track of those symbols, but I had been ripping off the doors. So
why would you do that?
Because I thought it was going to be like a puzzle. So it took me a little bit longer than probably necessary, but I was able to piece it together correctly.
Oh my gosh.
How did you know which doors went back where?
I didn't.
You just did it as like a puzzle?
Yeah.
That's really hard.
Yeah, it was a bad idea. Don't do that.
Playing on expert mode over here.
Wow.
There was stars on top of the box.
Hmm?
There was a folded motherboard. That one I had to get the hint on the very last thing. I couldn't. I guess you kind of had to squint at it, and I did not figure that out. Okay, so we failed on the same one.
I take
That
it
one,
you got all the other ones up to that.
Mhm.
Same with us. Yeah. So
Yes.
we were on a great streak all week, and then that one, it was tough reading the hint because it's like we did every single thing we were supposed to do and just
Mhm.
didn't squint hard enough at the end.
Yep, exactly. Then you had to make some fuel with a little maze. And then today you had to hang up some clothes.
yeah.
That was a fun one.
That
That was really good.
very, very good. Anyway, all hits this week, I think. Great puzzles. All right.
This week was really good.
All right. Should we dive into there's treasure inside content? After,
No.
Oh, okay.
We need to, well, I guess this is treasure and side content, but off the top, we need to say, starting 2 episodes ago, we have now re-implemented that we are going to go back through the lion's share, chapter by chapter. So if you've been listening the last couple episodes, you probably caught on that we're going to include chapter notes in each episode moving forward as we get through all the chapters again.
Yeah, so today we'll be covering chapter 3, and it also says it in the video titles, but our video titles are getting quite long, so maybe you don't see the whole thing. But yeah, chapter 3 today.
I was like 50-50, kind of slightly worried when we came up with that idea that it was going to feel a little too redundant with having done all the chapters as standalone episodes the first time, and it hasn't been that way at all. It's been totally very worthwhile, totally new ideas. I'm really glad we're doing it.
Yes, agree 100%.
And then let's also take a quick second to address the next few episodes that will be coming out. Like we said, it is holiday time. Schedules are kind of crazy and busy, and people are traveling. So our next few episodes will probably just be a little bit different. I don't know, maybe a little bit shorter. Maybe we'll be focusing more on like fewer segments, but wanting to continue to highlight our chapter revisits. So just a little heads up that that's coming for the next few episodes.
Yes, be patient with us, bear with us. We will try to keep our streak alive of every week, every Monday. But yeah, the episodes might be a little bit abbreviated just because I won't be in the studio.
Yes, though those be a lot going on coming up.
All right, should we dive into the news? Bryn, kick us off.
Huge news! Jon Collins-Black will be a keynote speaker at TreasureCon coming up at the end of January in Las Vegas. So if you have not bought your tickets for TreasureCon yet, be sure to grab those because this is going to be really exciting. So it sounds like the Calazars announced that Jon Collins-Black will be doing a maybe 20-30 minute-ish talk, and then he will have questions pre-screened questions moderated by his wife. So she will be asking the questions that we submit. So be sure to submit your questions to the Calazars Discord. They have, I don't know the Discord lingo. They have channels in there. And right at the top, there's questions for Jon Collins-Black at TreasureCon. So go in there, submit your questions. They have it divided out by box. And so you can get your question asked to Jon live.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very exciting news. And supposedly maybe a book signing on Sunday after TreasureCon. But yeah, we don't necessarily know how much he's going to be. I'm assuming he'll be at the conference. I don't know how much he'll be partaking in the other activities. Hopefully he'll play poker.
I need to practice. I haven't played poker now in 2 months.
I got a question that just popped into my head. What do you guys think is kind of the proper way to approach a book signing? Do we like order a clean, crisp book to have signed, or have them sign ours with all like random highlights and folds and creases and underlines and notes in the margins?
I think you buy one there, right?
As a veteran of book signing myself, I actually haven't told this story yet on the podcast.
I've never done a book signing before.
Blake has a book signing. I literally cried when I told Cody I thought of. not even that funny. I just loved the story so much, and I just you tell it, Blake.
I will in just a sec. To answer Cody's question, you can bring whatever book you want. I'm gonna have my travel copy of There's Treasure Inside, which my travel copy is just my version, early version, edition 1 hardback book. I travel with it all the time. So I'll have that ready to have JCB sign.
I do think at a book signing though, they typically have the book. Like you could buy a new crisp version for him to sign.
Right. I think there will be new copies you could buy as well. I actually was approached on the Discord by a nice search group probably like a month ago. I forgot to tell this story, but they were in New Mexico for a birthday trip, actually, and wanted to figure out if I was close to them to meet up. And for whatever reason, I was in a mood to meet up, and they came up to town, and we met at a coffee shop and talked Treasure Inside for about an hour and a half, and mostly about past and future box. It was a great time, and at the end of that, they wanted me to sign their copy of There's Treasure Inside, which I happily obliged.
I love
to.
it. I love it. And where did you sign?
Right next to the butterfly symbol on the title page.
I'm so jealous. Oh, I'm so jealous.
You
Anyway,
should set up a booth right next to JCB. It's just Blake signing his book too.
Oh, the first time I tried to tell Cody that, I absolutely was in tears thinking of Blake signing another man's book. But I like it. It's great. I'm happy that they asked. Yeah.
Me too. It was a good time. Really good time. All right. You also have news about Jon Collins-Black's holiday email.
Yeah, so we missed Jon's email last week. We missed talking about it. So Jon has sent out an email now a couple weeks ago. It was essentially like, hey, give my book as a gift this year. It was unavailable last year. But he also said in that email, now is not the time to be going boots on the ground, searching for these boxes, enjoy the holidays with your friends and family, essentially. So I don't know how much we want to read into that. If he's telling us this is truly like, don't waste your time, but don't be taking the effort right now. It's not the best time, or maybe you can't be finding the boxes right now, or maybe just more from a safety standpoint as well. So anyways, I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's just a general overarching blanket statement that's matches the book statement as well, like what's in the book about not searching in snow, and assuming that at least some of the boxes are probably in snow at this point over winter, and just to avoid winter searching overall because of harsh weather conditions. So I wouldn't read too much into it other than it just kind of being an overarching statement that generally you should not be boots on the ground right now.
Perfect.
Right. Do you want to do a quick what's more likely?
What's more likely? Am I doing mine, or did you have one, Cody?
You're doing yours.
Okay. We actually have a user submitted what's more likely this week. Nice. So this is kind of fun. This is from Digging Buddy. He said, it strikes me odd that JCB commissioned Seth Gould to create 5 boxes, but only 4 coins to go with them. That, coupled with the difference that we've noticed on the Pokemon coin, has me pondering an idea. So I'll ask, what's more likely? There are indeed only 4 coins. This is because Jon didn't think one was needed for the lion's share, and those coins can be used as clues in locating the box each one belongs to. Or there's actually 5 coins, which can be linked together to create our roadmap, starting at the Pokemon box plus 3 stops along the way to pick up our other smaller treasures, and finally arriving at the lion's share hidden location. But because JCB thought this would give too much away, he decided to remove the images and mentions the lion's share coin from and remove the images and mentions of the lion's share coin from the book before printing. So what do you think? So basically, like, do we think there really are only 4 coins? Or do we think there is a 5th coin that's just not pictured?
I highly speculate that there is a 5th coin with the lion's share. I definitely think there will be a coin in there. I don't know necessarily if it has to do with the roadmap, if there was a clue on it, and maybe it was too obvious. I don't know, but yeah, I'm 90% sure there'll be a coin in the lion's share box.
Wow, what do you think, Cody?
Exact opposite. I was thinking, oh, I hope this is a good what's more likely. And we don't all just say that we think there's going to be 4 coins and not a 5th coin. And that's just it, and we're done. So I was very surprised by Blake's answer there. I think there's 4. Try and help me refresh my memory here, because I do so much TTI research, and then sometimes I go to bed and have dreams, and then I can't remember if the dream that I dreamed about TTI was like something that actually happened a long time ago and like a vague reference, or if it's something I totally fabricated in my mind. But didn't JCB talk about how there was like a connection between him wanting to have the hints in the 4 smaller boxes, and there are the laminated hints in the 4 smaller boxes, but at one point there was going to be the coin, like was the hint, and that was like the purpose of the coin originally?
No, that was all speculation, I think, from my side.
Something we talked about, but something we made up as
it's not fact,
possibility.
It's speculation.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I'd still lean towards that. I think that there's enough reason for the small coins to exist as 4 coins and not a set of 5. It doesn't feel to me like there's 5 boxes. Why is there only 4 coins? There's a missing one. It feels like there's a very reasonable explanation for why there's the 4 coins. The same way that there's the 4 hints, because they're associated with the 4 smaller boxes.
Yeah, a little bit of context. I believe it's from the American Treasure podcast, where he was talking about whether Jon Collins-Black was talking about whether he would provide a unique clue to the finders of the small boxes, or whether he wanted to have a unique clue and the community get a clue when the box is found. And those would be 2 separate things. And then the speculation from my side and others was, well, maybe the patterns on those coins was going to be what he released as the community clue when a box was found, or he changed it up, or he didn't do that at all. So it is all hearsay. Bryn, what's your thought?
My gut is also that there's only 4 coins.
Yes, finally someone sides with me. It's always 2v1.
Honestly, I don't think I'd ever even considered, like, well, is there a 5th? It never even crossed my mind until this email. I was like, oh yeah, that is kind of odd. But to me, and maybe it's just because this is how it's been in my mind, to me it makes sense that there's just the 4.
Think about Seth Gold. He did over 250,000 chisel cuts for the Pokemon box. For somebody that has like that level of detail and dedication, I think they probably have to have a little bit of OCD, in my opinion. And if Jon Collins-Black commissioned 4 coins and not a 5th coin for the large box, I think Seth would push back against that and would just make one anyway. I think there's definitely going to be a 5th coin.
It's wild. That's a wild take.
I mean, there'd have to be a reason for it, because he would need something to put on it, right?
No.
Like, it's not just going to be a blank. You think it'd just be like a blank coin on one side?
It could be. But the other side would be representative of the box. Sounds like we have another bet on our hands.
Oh boy. Be all full of blizzards.
mini blizzard bet. There is a coin in the lion's share.
So think about it this way too. In my mind, we've kind of gotten away from the idea of like the 4 boxes intending to be solved first, and then like the lion's share one kind of being the big culmination of the hunt. I remember that was kind of how it was laid out in my mind when the hunt started.
Mhm.
We've kind of gotten away from that. But if the
It's-
coins are supposed to be hints associated with the smaller boxes, it's like, maybe what I'm saying is backwards. So I was kind of thinking like the sequence of how things would happen is like small box coin, small box coin, small box coin, small box coin, big box, and that like there would just be a random coin left over after that. Like, yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense because if the other ones have already been revealed to point you towards the box, if there was another coin, it should be. If we're saying it should they like go together or have there's the same intent behind them, we should that coin should have already been revealed to point you towards the lion's share box. I did not say that very well at all. Did not articulate that very well, but it was a thought I was kind of forming as I was talking.
It would be
Uh,
really cool if there was a lion's share coin that was like the all of the other ones combined in the way they're intended to be combined. But I always thought you guys are both on the in the camp of the coins wouldn't be used all in the same way.
I still think I am mostly.
he wouldn't JCB wouldn't be able to have a coin for the lion's share that showed how the other coins would be combined because Seth Gold would have an advantage.
That's true.
It's true. Yeah. And then I was also going to say, the whole idea is that we think there's another coin that would match the intent of the small box coins. So I feel like the only thing that could be in the lion's share box would be more of like you're saying, like a solution type coin, which is then not really apples to apples with what the small coins are.
Yeah, I think it would be have a blank side. I still think
So
it would
you're
be representative of the lion's share box.
so your whole take is really just all in on that it's like
Artistic.
an OCD thing where you have to have the coin because there is the box.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, 90%. But yes.
Very interesting. Well, that prompted much more discussion than I was expecting.
All right. Send them in. Send in your what's more likelies. No horseshoes and hand grenades. I think the chapter content's going to be a little bit heavy today. So we'll save our horseshoes and hand grenades for the chapter. We do have mailbag.
Mailbag. We've got mail.
Bryn, you have a mailbag for us today.
We have one mailbag and someone basically sent us a presentation. So I'm going to be walking through that. So we'll just do the one because it is a bit longer. This is from Violalee. we tried to figure this out before and like said, well, surely someone's pranking you because Cody's Viola versus Voila, but they said they were using this name on Discord previously. Violalee. What did you guys say?
Voili.
Voili?
Voili.
That sounds like it's supposed to be that instead of anyways, okay. She basically sent in a new take on the Olympic ring theory, but I think it's also really interesting just from like a color analysis perspective as well. So I'm going to walk through what she sent in. Okay. So first page here. And I'm just going to be reading this. So if you're listening, there are some visuals to go with it, but I think you'll be able to follow along just fine. Colors in the book. She said, note, I'm using the book cover JCB chose to include with the ebooks. If there are any clues on the front cover, it would be in this version. I think that's fair.
Yes.
4 colors are featured on the X on the front cover. Yellow, red, blue, green. Black is the background color. These are the same colors used for the 5 Olympic rings. There are 5 different treasure items on the cover, and they are all found within the 4-colored section of the X: a gold nugget, a Bitcoin, part of the Amelia Earhart photo, a gold box, and an emerald. There are no treasure items found in the black regions of the cover. All right, if you can scroll down a little bit. All right, in the table of contents, we have chapter 1 is the 120 carat sapphire. Chapter 2 is the 100 rings of Tuyet Nuyet. Chapter 4 is the 96 carat Chivor emerald. Chapter 6 is rubies to wear. And she calls out that in chapter 2, if you actually go to chapter 2, it says the 100 gold rings of Tuyet Nuyet.
Interesting.
And in the table of contents, gold is omitted.
Interesting.
I will admit I have not got back through and checked this, but she has the 2 pictures there for us to see. So then that would make the table of contents, blue, gold, emerald, blue, gold, green, red, in that order. She says the same 4 colors that appear within the X on the front cover are also featured in the first 6 chapters of the book in the exact same order as the Olympic rings. Blake just walked away for a second, and he is controlling my screen.
Sorry, I had to get my newest version of There's Treasure Inside to validate.
Yeah, I was hoping you could check that.
Yeah, it still reads in the table of contents 100 rings of Tuyet Nuyet.
Okay, and then chapter 2 confirmed. It says gold rings.
Yep, on mine it does.
Interesting.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here. Slow down a little bit for me because this is all very interesting.
Okay, sorry. I'll read this bottom part here, and then that's kind of a first thought. And then, so in the very end of the book, some more of our treasure items. I'm sorry, I can't exactly remember what that title was. She said these same 4 colors also appear on page 231 and 232 in the same exact order: tanzanite, blue; gold, yellow; emerald, green; ruby, red. So,
old emerald
of
and
course,
ruby rings. Nice.
So, of course, we've had this Olympic ring theory, but she's taking more of like this color analysis and the sequential order of how these colors are mentioned in the book and tying that to the Olympic rings as well. And the previous Olympic rings theories have had the black circle be a location. So we'll get to that because she's saying there's no treasures shown on the black background of the title or of the cover. So then moving on, the illustrations from these 4 early color chapters can be seen below. This is pretty cool. So chapter 1, the 120 carat sapphire. So we have, of course, the sapphire itself. We have Scotty in black and white. And then we have the sapphire and then the sapphire under the UV light. So we had the blue theme in this chapter. She said, I found it interesting they used a black and white photo of Scotty rather than color. Scotty wore red. There are plenty of color stock photos of Scotty to choose from. So is it intentional that they made it black and white because the emphasis is supposed to be on blue rather than red? So I'm assuming what she's emphasizing here. And then if you
brilliant business blueprint.
For chapter 2, if we have the 100 gold rings of Tuyet Nuyet, she has all the pictures side by side here. And yes, this all does look very gold color story. We have the gold rings. You can kind of see the golden light in the back of this Angkor Wat picture. Seeing them all side by side like this, I think, is really helpful for telling the color stories, if you will. Chapter 4 for the emerald. Of course, we have the 2 emerald photos, which are green. We had that picture at the beginning of the chapter where they're like wandering into the jungle, which has this green smoke overlay. And then she said the lower part of the Rob Levinsky photo has a green haze to it, almost as if a green filter was used, which seeing here, it totally does. I know we talked about that filter before, but I had not necessarily thought of it as green.
Yeah, that's a great catch there. We had talked about why that filter was unique. It's seemingly unique to the book that it was used on that picture. This would be a great explanation for why it was used.
Mhm.
Awesome catch.
And then for 6 rubies to wear, of course, we have the jewelry, which is red, including the red wing earrings. So those were the color stories shown in the photos corresponding to the rings. Okay, I'm going to try to just follow along with what she's saying here. When you compare the ebook cover X to the part 2X image, the color blue is missing. It was not included in the part 2X. I think this is telling us that the colors yellow, green, and red are relevant for finding the part 2 boxes, but blue is not. Blue is strictly used for part 1, the lion's share treasure. So there's a few hot takes in here, but I think they're all very interesting considerations. So how should these colors be used? I think the fact that the color order in the early chapters of the book, blue, yellow, green, red, matches the Olympic ring color order is a clue that these somehow work together. The book order for the 5 treasure boxes can be seen below. So here she's outlined Forest Fen with the yellow, Pokemon with the green, Appalachian Footpath with the red. And she says, JCB has given us regions where 3 of the treasure boxes are located, the 3 I just mentioned. These 3 box regions follow a west to east pattern that aligns with their order in the book. Only the lion's share and the past and future box regions need to be placed on this map. So I know everyone's thinking, well, what about the black ring? On an overlay of the Olympic rings onto the 3 known box regions can be seen to the left. I believe the lion's share treasure box will be found within the blue region of the map. Yes, please. We would like that very much. Blue is featured on the front cover X, but is missing from the part 2X image. Blue is featured and repeatedly mentioned in chapter 1, the 120 carat sapphire. You can scroll down just a little bit, Blake, sorry. Longitude 120 west passes through 4 states in this region: Washington, Oregon, Nevada, and California. I think the black ring region will not contain any of these treasure boxes. Evidence to support this. So that's where she's saying on the cover and the part 2 cover, there's no treasure shown in the black region. The 4 colors from the early chapters seem to match and align with the Olympic rings in a left to right, west to east pattern. The black ring gets skipped over when placing the known regions on the map. To keep the treasure box numbers consistent with the left, right, west, east pattern, the past and future box, 4th treasure in the book, ends up in the shared space between the green and red rings. Evidence to support this. Venn appears in the word search. Venn diagrams compare overlapping data. The Olympic rings resemble a Venn diagram. The word upset appears in the past and future chapter. Upset plots are similar to Venn diagrams. They compare overlapping data but use rows and columns instead. And then she said red and green are linked in chapter 20.
This is a long way to get to an Ohio person here.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
This is awesome.
More evidence in the text. Okay, we're almost done here. I know this is long, I'm sorry. But I do really like all this. It's very thorough. In the first paragraph of chapter 1, the word map is mentioned 4 times. In chapter 2, features rings. In the final page of the Appalachian Footpath Trail box, JCB says we've come full circle, which is followed by his treasure map. I think these are all hints that a map and rings/circles will somehow work together. And then we have one last page here, a couple extra notes. The picture of the 120 carat sapphire from chapter 1 on page 24 features a mirror image of the sapphire as seen under the UV light. What's interesting is that the blue and red sapphire images sort of line up with the blue and red Olympic rings. They're both mirrored and separated from each other. And then in chapter 2, with the gold rings, don't wing it. She said, I think the rings in this chapter are an important hint towards the Olympic rings. The rings are staggered similar to the Olympic rings. I also think that the 4 rings featured on page 26 is a hint that only 4 of the Olympic ring regions on the map will be used for treasure locations. And then she says there's 2 quotes associated with rings. There are 2 quotes associated with this rings chapter. One is from former Olympian and gold medalist Jackie Knoyer-Kurse, and she is one of the 5 Olympians quoted in the book. The other being Wilma Rudolph, Michael Jordan, Abby Wambach, and indirectly Muhammad Ali. The other quote in chapter 2 is from Mark Twain, who has somewhat odd Olympic connection. He was the early famed member of the Olympic Club in San Francisco. The logo of the Olympic Club features the capital O with wings, which fits the subtitle, Don't Wing It. I think these Olympic connections and the image and quotes for chapter 2 reinforce the idea that the Olympic rings work together with the 4 colors featured in the early chapters of the book. All right, that is it. So I think
Awesome.
there's a lot to digest there, but like I said, I think this is a very interesting, both a color analysis from the beginning of the book, and then a new fresh take on potentially what the Olympic rings could be as far as a theory in the book as well. I don't even know how we discuss this. There's so much, but initial thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty thorough analysis. I do like the concept of using the Olympic rings in some way. You know, why JCB would put a half-page image of the Olympic rings in the book, it seems fairly random. Even more random than having a picture of Scotty from Star Trek. So, you know, I've speculated before that might be leading us, the Olympic theme might be leading us to Olympic National Park if we're thinking about a Washington-based solve. Using the rings as spacers on top of the map, I think, has been a popular idea, but this takes it to a whole nother level, I would say, in terms of why. I really like that she pointed out that the 100 gold rings of Tuyet Nuyet is missing in the table of contents. That seems like that should have been caught before, so that's a great pull, even if it is just a typo.
Totally.
But I don't know, as we get down the solve, which is obviously more speculative, not quite sure if I'm in line with the map at the beginning and end, just because if the Olympic rings are supposed to be used for part 2 boxes, the Olympic rings aren't really mentioned in the part 2 at all. So you'd have to be doing that based on the X as part of the title page, and then jumping to a conclusion that has to do with the Olympic rings. So that seems a bit more stretchy to me, I would say. We talked about it just last episode, chapter 2. The image of the rings at the beginning of chapter 2 is a copyrighted image, meaning JCB didn't take it himself, right? Or have his photographer take it. It was from, I think, a museum in Hong Kong.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, the Hong Kong one.
So whether or not that has any meaning, I would put less emphasis on that particular picture. I don't know. I've said enough. What do you guys think?
I just want to quickly say my favorite part was like seeing the color stories told through the images by the chapters. I think that just puts like a whole new emphasis on the color component, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like it almost feels obvious. It's like, well, of course, if you put the 3 red rubies next to each other, it's red. But like, I think for me, the fact that gold was omitted from the table of contents, like maybe he was trying to de-emphasize something there and then something slipped through the cracks. But the green cast on that Rob Levinsky photo is really interesting. And then I also really loved the comment about, well, why is the Scotty image black and white?
Mm-hmm.
Like it absolutely did not have to be. She shows on the right a full image, color image of a picture from the same photo shoot.
My turn.
Cody.
All right. Yeah, I'll emphasize again one of the things you guys both said, which is that table of contents. I think that could be really important. I'm trying to decide how much I want to read into that, but independent of how important it ends up being, it's an excellent find. I hadn't heard of that one yet. I think this is all really good stuff, and I kind of go all over the place with my thoughts on like how face value to take some of the things that JCB says, and like how intricate of solves to look into versus how like more simple solves might be more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
As of late, probably like the last 2 or 3 weeks, and don't hold me to this because like I said, my thoughts on this change all the time, but I'm really liking super straightforward solves and taking things that JCB says at face value without getting like Bryn, you were talking about his email where he said, hey, spend time with your family this holiday and don't go out looking for treasure. It's not a great time to do it anyway. Like maybe he just wanted to say that. I'm kind of leaning more towards those kind of interpretations. And then like, yeah, 4 chapters being equated with 4 colors instead of some of the things I've looked into that are just like, I guess complex might be a nice way of phrasing it. So yeah, I'm into some of these kind of ideas, and I think that this is a lot of the work that sometimes can feel a little monotonous and is not as exciting to be like, oh, I'm going to pull all the pictures and see how all the colors lined up. But it's like that's what's actually important. That's like the meat and potatoes of what eventually is going to be a solve in my mind. And I know I personally spend way too much time on like the fancy cherry on top frills stuff that I get really excited about. And I don't do enough of this kind of stuff of like, hey, like I said, let's highlight where he mentions colors. Let's pull out all the photos, organize them on one page. I think that's excellent. And that's kind of the work that really needs to happen to progress some of the thoughts and theories. I really liked the Rob Levinsky photo too. I know we kind of touched on that. We had talked about that previously and been like, why the heck is there this weird haze over the photo that's just like not addressed at all? And I think it's that this theory of like chapter 4 is the green chapter is a good explanation for why there's that weird haze on it. So I like that. I do have some mixed feelings about the colors and their association with chapter 1, 2, 4, and 6, because I go back and forth on everything. I also go back and forth on the whole color thing. The argument in support of the colors is obvious. I mean, just looking at that page, it certainly seems like you said, there's the Scotty picture that's black and white so that it doesn't conflict with the other blue photos. It really seems like they all, those colors are really tied to those chapters. That being said, my mixed feelings come from these are chapters about treasures. A lot of the treasures are gems. So did this kind of have to happen like just naturally by writing chapters? Or like, I'm writing this chapter about the sapphire I acquired. I'm writing this chapter about the emerald I acquired. Like I said, some of them really stand out, like the Rob Levinsky one, but probably 50% of those photos are just of the gems he's talking about in the chapters. So it's kind of a cart and horse thing of like, is he picking the color and then because the color is important for the solve and then using the emerald to talk about green, or is he buying an emerald and writing a chapter about it and then it kind of just the whole chapter has to kind of become green naturally? So those are kind of my mixed feelings on it. Once we get further along in the presentation and get to some of the Olympic ring stuff, we've talked about Olympic rings before. So my two things with Olympic rings right off the bat, as far as like the Olympic rings overlaying the continental United States and indicating where to search, is it feels like something he would have had to decide he wanted to make like a central part of the overall hunt and solve very early on. And if he's going to end up making 5 boxes and there's going to be 5 Olympic rings, and he's, you know, like I said, starting very early on in the hunt with that concept, it just seems like he'd do 1 box per 1 Olympic ring, and it wouldn't be like weirdly messy with, okay, one's a Venn diagram and one of them I'm going to indicate cryptically that there's not one here. It just feels like there'd be one in each thing. My other, probably more important takeaway in the big picture is, what does it really gain us? I can't remember if we brought that up last time we talked about the Olympic ring overlay, but we already know the Pokemon boxes in that general area. I guess it would cut off half of the Appalachian box, so we'd know that it's on the north side. And I guess we'd know that the Forest Fen one's in the south side, but really all it's doing is like cutting out a handful of states for those 3. And then I just, it doesn't feel like we're really, if we knew for certain that this was like the correct solve or something similar for the overlay, it just doesn't feel like we're really gaining a whole lot of knowledge that's going to get us closer to an actual solve, even though it would narrow it down a little bit. Yeah. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up, it's kind of a total tangent. It has to do with the cover of the book and the X. It definitely feels like he was going with a like a color theme of like yellow treasure, yellow upper left-hand corner, green treasure, green lower left-hand corner of the X. And I'm wondering why he didn't do like a sapphire or something over the blue part of the X. That feels like a very obvious design choice. And so I'm wondering if there's like a reason he wanted to show that gold box on the cover.
My commentary on the cover X was that if there is such an emphasis on the order of the colors mentioned, which she saw that it was pretty consistent, I guess I would think, shouldn't those colors then match the same order on that X, if that was the intention, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so too.
If it was meant to be used as a pattern, yeah. Yeah.
Because right now it doesn't match the rings either, right? Like, I mean, I guess that is this order she's saying. So that is a little that would be off brand for this.
Well, a lot to dwell on here. Really good thoughts. Yeah. I like it.
And an excellent presentation too, really well laid out.
Yes, it made it very approachable. I'll say I'm once again very behind in the mailbag, so I apologize for everyone that I have not gotten back to. Yeah, it's just been busy. So I'll try to keep chipping away at mailbag and get back to everyone.
Yes, I will make an effort over the holidays to get back into the mailbag as well and help with that. So because I'll have some time on vacation. All right. We dive into Discord detectives. All right, I'll start with a quick one that I've been putting off for a while, but kind of fits your theme of simple explanations, Cody, which I like. Maybe it doesn't fit the bill, I'm not sure, but I would like to hear your opinion. It's on Pokemon Box from Travel Bug from the Discord. I don't want to cast shade on a potential Alabama solve for the Pokemon Box, but in Arkansas, there is a town of Ula. That, it's spelled O-L-A, but it's pronounced Ula. That sits along Highway 7 that runs between Buffalo National River, no buffalo, and Hot Springs, no fire. So already I kind of like some of these mysterious questions, at least to me, about why there's no Charizard or no fire Pokemon in the area, right? At least it gives an explanation by using hot springs instead of, which would indicate no fire. It is not pronounced the same, but John Coltrane released an album called Ole Coltrane, O-L-E, what many consider to be his seminal work. One didn't know exactly how these words are pronounced, one could get them mistaken for another. Best of all, Ula lies within Yell County, Y-E-L-L, a loud noise. Anyway, I picked up on this one just because it has some of the mysteries, right? The loud noise. It doesn't have feverishly clapping, which I really want to know. It has an explanation for no fire, and it has a connection to John Coltrane. So just a few quick hit nuggets there. I don't know if you guys like those or not.
Yeah, I think there are some definitely. I think it all could make sense, for sure. And I have certainly had Yell County on my radar at one point in time, looking at that because it is pretty distinct in its name that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I that John Coltrane song maybe wasn't on my radar, and that doesn't mean much. I'm not a John Coltrane expert,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think anybody would need to be a John Coltrane expert. So it's just, yeah, kind of. I guess your solve would be like, what John Coltrane song are you choosing to make your part of the solve? So
Yeah.
I think that could be fair.
And this is an album, not just an individual song, but an album called
Okay.
Ole Coltrane.
Thank you.
Cody,
Bryn, what do you think about so the whole no Buffalont thing? A lot of people are taking that to like the story is that he's confused because like the geographical area would lead him to believe there's a buffalo there, and then he's relieved that he's relieved that he is confirmed
So-
to have just been.
I mean, what's your question?
Well, I'm getting to it. I'm setting it up right now.
no buffalo indicates Buffalo National River because it's called Buffalo National River. He did a modicum of research and realized there was actually no buffalo at Buffalo National River. Is
Yeah.
the majority take of people.
He would have needed a prompt to search. Are there buffalo here? So you would need buffalo in the name to know to search to end up finding, oh, there's actually not buffalo somewhere, is the main consensus on that.
Okay. Ultimately what my question was going to be is there any room for the interpretation of that second half of the chapter where he's traveling with Froakie for him just to be in a perpetual state of confusion, and that all of the like references are him being confused? Because that's like kind of what the hot spring seems to be like too. Like when he's like, oh, there's no fire Pokemon, because he was confused because there's a thing called a hot springs there. And then I think that could also possibly play in with like the Mewtwo at the end and all of his, psychic attacks and whatnot, and just general confusion. Is that a possibility that the like all of the references in the second half of that chapter are like wordplay or kind of puns on being confused tied to geographical locations? Would that make sense?
I mean, I definitely think there's a theme of him being confused, or like he was in a trance. He had to adjust his vision to see what he was actually seeing. I didn't really hear him. There's this theme of like, things aren't quite what they are. And I think it's all part of like living, he's in this expanded reality, right? Is it a dream?
I don't think
Like he's in a different mindset.
I don't think all the phrasing and the way that chapter's written is really conducive to that state of confusion, in my opinion, Cody. I think it's for kind of those two lines that you mentioned about the no fire Pokemon, and JCB didn't quite understand that, but he just played along. And then the no buffalo and no dogs. I mean, the no dogs was Brokey pointed to a sign, which consensus is there's a no dogs allowed in the area that the treasure is. But I don't think the rest of the chapter, when he's listing out Pokemon that he saw, I don't know how you would necessarily link that to a state of confusion. But it's an interesting thought exercise that I will take into account next time I read Pokemon chapter.
Yeah, I'd have to reread it with that in mind to even know if I'm asking a reasonable question. But I guess just hearing, I'm just pondering on kind of those couple of that we've just talked about that were like he's in a state of confusion. I'm wondering if we can then like extrapolate that and kind of use that as a template for some of the other hints in the text later on. Or like you said, if it's just not conducive to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would almost create, it almost becomes too hard then, right?
Yeah.
If nothing is clear,
Yeah. It's already too hard.
it's already too hard. Clapping feverishly, winking knowingly. All right. Bryn, you have a Discord detective as well?
I do. Can you pull up the picture, please?
Absolutely.
I have to read my screenshot from Discord. This is also on the Pokemon box. This is from Scarab Beetle 82. I don't have the right tools/skills to do this properly, but here's a theory. What if the purple image works as a, oh gosh, I never know how to say this. Hakone
Hakone.
puzzle box? The solve is physical, not symbolic. Treat it like it has hidden seams, segments where the pattern/symmetry shift, or tiny misalignments. Sorry, you scrolled a little too far. Tiny misalignments show up, then try sliding segments in a sequence until something visually releases. Alignment, hidden layers, message. Mewtwo's gesture might be literal, pointing to exact corner/seam where the first move is. I poked at it in Figma, easy to manipulate with instructions, but couldn't cleanly segment it before I ran out of free credits. Tossing this idea out in case someone wants to try the puzzle box approach, in case someone already has and is willing to share what, if anything, they have learned from it. So I gave this a heart in Discord. I thought this was super interesting because we've talked about it before. Like, if you look very closely at the purple image, like there are lines, horizontal and vertical seams to the image, which is really, I don't know. We've tried mirroring across them. We've tried different approaches. But I thought this was a really cool approach with the sliding puzzle box panels and the doors in the hotel slid open by themselves, right? Like sliding doors. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought this was a cool idea.
That's a really cool one.
You haven't given it a stab yet, Bryn?
I have not had a chance yet.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is an interesting idea. And the reason it's broken into 5 strips here is because there's 5 movements that are needed to open the Pokemon box.
Oh, I don't know if that was it. I guess maybe what I would be intimidated by too if I did this approach was like you can physically see some lines, dividing lines in the book. And so if they are vertical and horizontal, I mean, that can get out of hand in a hurry, right? If you're shifting vertically and you'd have to be doing something horizontally. So I guess I'm also overwhelmed thinking about trying to start this as well.
I don't know if I've appreciated the fact that you think that there's lines, both horizontal and vertical, in the picture.
Yeah, they're very subtle. I sent you a text, I don't know, 6 months ago where it has the red highlighted lines. I'd have to revisit it.
Okay, cool.
I'm not blaming you for not remembering the picture. I've sent thousands of texts since then, but they're very subtle, and it could just be a byproduct of him heavily filtering this image too. So who knows if it's something we're supposed to read into, but I did like this on theme, on brand approach to those lines.
Nice.
Exactly. So on theme. It's something that he mentions a couple of times in the book, both part 1 and part 2. And that it's like, when he talks about it in the book, it's like a method of creating / solving a puzzle. So yeah, I really like that idea.
But I mean, are you expected to then cut your book? Do you cut the purple image out? I think that's a big.
Take a photocopy.
Put it on a microfiche.
A microfiche, that would not be an appropriate use of microfiche.
No, what did you say? Put it on make a copy of it? Yeah, no. Anyways.
A facsimile.
I really liked that. I need to go back into Discord to see if anybody replied.
All right. Let's do a quick coincidence of the day. And then we'll get into chapter content. From the Advent calendar, 21st of December. The tank is full to the brim with the finest cosmic homebrew. Full to the brim.
Yeah, Cody was reading it aloud, and I said, "Brim to the rim."
So just a little coincidence with the Pokemon box brimmed to the rim. The Advent calendar talked about full to the brim. That's a true coincidence of the day. All right,
that's excellent.
Let's talk about the chapter 3 of There's Treasure Inside. I think we'll just do round robin and talk about. I just got like a little message from you, Cody. Was something happening?
No.
Okay. Talk about chapter 3. Anybody volunteer to start?
I will, because this goes along with what we were just talking about.
Perfect.
So I thought it was interesting that chapter 3 starts with this huge full-page picture of the Japanese puzzle box, which is, of course, like a main subject of the chapter, but it also seems a little odd to me that this was emphasized as a full picture for something that's not in the treasure. So that seemed a little out of place. So again, like, is there an emphasis on the sliding mechanisms of this box, or is there something to look into more deeply with this image, or is it just because he really loved it?
Yeah, I haven't found much to buy into for that image of the box, the puzzle box. I looked at it very closely today with my ebook version and couldn't find any hints. I know it's been pointed out before that maybe the compass rose triangle on the top of the box kind of matches with Appalachian footpath triangles on that treasure map. I don't think there's necessarily a connection there, other than it is, I believe, on the cover of the book, and that triangle kind of matches up. But the other thing I was thinking, and it's just confirmation bias, is like there's also the compass rose pattern kind of on the top of the box, and then there's three little pluses next to the left of those in a pattern. And just because I'm stuck on this Highway 101 idea, correctly or incorrectly, it's like, ooh, look, next to these compass roses, that's supposed to represent a map, and there's California, Oregon, Washington lined up. But I don't put very much stock into that. That's just ideas I was thinking about while reading the chapter.
I also spent quite a bit of time looking closely at the pattern on there for some other reasons that I found in the text. I didn't really come up with much. I also did a reverse image search, which wasn't super fruitful.
Okay.
There's a lot of boxes that look very similar everywhere online. So it was just pretty much exactly what you'd expect to pop up when you reverse image search it. I would say that having a full page photo of it in this context is not like as strange to me as like the Olympic rings that we had talked about. Those like mid chapter or like Hopi calendar that's at the end of the chapter, because it is pretty standard for him to have kind of like the opening page with the chapter be a full page photo of what the chapter is about. And I do feel like this is that. This is what the chapter is about, the same way that he's got like a giant like the giant sapphire or this giant emerald. Yeah, so it didn't jump out to me as strange for that photo to be so big.
A little strange just because it's bigger than the lion's share box, right? Which kind of is a smaller picture on the next page. But yeah, it doesn't tingle my spidey sense.
What I'm saying, it's not weird to me because of it's like the title image, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
with each chapter.
Yep.
So it's because the lion's share box is smaller, but it's also a mid chapter photo.
Mm-hmm. All right, Cody, you want to go next?
Is anybody going? I think I'm gonna do mine just kind of in order of how I found them.
Yeah.
Is anybody going to talk about leitmotiv?
Yeah,
No.
but not in detail. So why don't you start with that and I'll comment on top.
All right. I'm also not going to talk about it in detail because I
Okay.
do feel like I went way down that rabbit hole already. And I still kind of like a lot of the things I came up with
Oh, yeah.
months ago. It just feels weird not to mention this is the chapter that had the leitmotiv quote, which was the Henry Cartier-Bresson one of, in photography, the smallest thing can be a great subject. The little human detail can become a leitmotiv. So I wasn't even really going to say much more about it than that. But if you want to say anything you had to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to make a connection from that to the magnifying glass image.
Nice.
The little human detail can become a leitmotiv. And leitmotiv is a German word. And so I've been really working hard to try to connect those symbols on the magnifying glass to Germanic runes. Because leitmotiv is a German word, and because the little human detail can become a leitmotiv. And so I'm all in on the magnifying glass. I don't have a solution for it yet, but leitmotiv is key for what I'm working on right now. And
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to add that the sentence, or like right above where the magnifying glass is pictured, there's a line that says 250,000 chisel marks upon its surface.
Yeah.
So it's like it's certainly there.
I'm gonna dust
off
the old PowerPoint here in a minute to talk about the magnifying glass. Should we do that now, or do we have other ones we want to do?
My PowerPoint is also all about magnifying glass.
Well, you've seen mine before with a few edits. Why don't we start with mine as a recap?
Yeah,
and then we'll go into yours.
Sure.
I hope I don't ruin.
No, you won't.
Okay.
I think we're gonna be looking at the same thing, I'm sure.
All right. So it was a long time since we've talked about the magnifying glass. So for new listeners or people that want a refresher, the magnifying glass that's on page 42. It is speculated by us that there are markings on the magnifying glass that were added in a Photoshop or Photoshop-like program. And so I have the picture here. You guys can see that, right?
Yes.
Yep. To recap, we've done a search before to say this is what the original photo looks like. You can get it off the Sotheby's website. Sorry, I know somebody emailed in and told me how to pronounce it, and I've forgotten. Anyway,
people got real upset about that one.
Sorry, everyone. Anyway, there's multiple angles of the magnifying glass on this website that was for auction, front and back. The orientation is a little bit different, but you can tell by the inlay pattern that this is the correct side. You can orient them and know that this is the wrong image. We have the right image. And when you zoom in on the picture, and you can see this if you were to look closely in the book or use a magnifying glass to look at the magnifying glass, you can see that there's these symbols that don't seem to match the image that we can get off the internet. So this is the same face of the magnifying glass that you can get from the website compared to the one in the book. And so there's, in my opinion, 5 symbols that show up on the magnifying glass that might have been added via editing. 2 in the 3 o'clock position, this upside down cup in the 6 o'clock position, and these 2 greater than, less than symbols in about the 8 o'clock position. The other arrows that I'm showing here are kind of reference points that you can see from the website image. And then you can see these particular details, but you can't see the upside down cup, for example, between those 2 orange arrows. We don't have any information necessarily on the symbols that are on the 8 o'clock position because the angle that the website image was taken doesn't reveal that side of the magnifying glass. So it's more speculative about the ones at the 8 o'clock position. Like I said, I'm kind of all in on runes. I'll get to that in a second. Other highlights, Bryn. I mean, you pointed out one quote about the 250,000 chisel marks upon its surface. I have a bunch of other things. A Sherlock Holmesian symbol reminding us of the importance of paying attention to the smallest things and talking about the magnifying glass. You can investigate on your own if you'd like. The journey of this egg, when he's talking about the Fabergé egg, gives us an erudite lesson on the value of taking time to notice details. He talks about the Imperial Fabergé egg sitting in the man's kitchen where he stared at it each day while eating his breakfast. The man got the thought to examine his egg more closely. He decided to inspect the watch more closely, and for the first time, he saw a small detail. On the watch was a tiny engraving. The man sat down at his computer and typed into its search bar the words, "Bacharion Constantine egg." And that was a new highlight for me, because if JCB wants us to find this magnifying glass on the internet to confirm whether or not these symbols were added, he's telling you exactly how to do it. Sit down at the computer and type into the search bar, Fabergé magnifying glass. Thought that was bolstering for sure, to say you have to do a little bit of extra research on this one. An article describing the third Imperial Fabergé egg appeared upon his screen. Included a picture of the egg. I think this is all kind of spoon feeding us to look into this magnifying glass more and find the differences.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it.
The owner's wise decision to take closer look paid off tremendously. All right, I'm sorry, Cody.
No, I was just gonna say I really like those quotes that you pulled out, and like you said, it does feel like he's spoon feeding us. My concern would be, I think we've looked for this multiple places, and the Sotheby's one, sorry again for the pronunciation, is the only one that we really were able to find, and he doesn't really have any control over, like, if that were to get taken down for some reason.
Yeah,
that would make me a little worried about, like, putting too much stock in him expecting us to find that image, and like him putting that much emphasis on searching for that image, I guess.
I mean, I think the sentiment of it, though, is compare this image to the old one. Even if the old one's not there, I think you would recognize these symbols as out of place.
So you almost think it's more like, hey, look at the fine details of this magnifying glass and compare it to what you would expect, and you'll notice that there's these deformations or markings on it.
I think that would be sufficient.
Yeah, even if you thought, even if you didn't have a reference image, I think you would still notice that there are markings on there, and potentially you could use them as a clue.
Yeah, I mean, That's what we did. Like we did, right? We
Mhm.
saw them first, and that's what then prompted you to look
Do the research,
for
to
another
type
image.
it into a search
Yeah.
bar on my computer.
Yeah.
Rabbit holes that we've gone down before, just as a quick recap. I'm not going to go into them in detail. Because of the Sherlock Holmes reference, I had looked into using the Dancing Man alphabet from Sherlock Holmes as a potential way to interpret these symbols. There's a couple iterations of the Dancing Man cipher that you can find online where it turns symbols of a dancing man into different letters of the alphabet. I wasn't quite sure how to use these. This was a speculative one on using H05, depending on kind of what you think the arms would look like. Didn't really yield anything. Using a semaphore flag system as another way to interpret those symbols as like arm movements. Also didn't reveal anything too interesting. E, N, J, V, P, and a null was kind of my interpretation, which doesn't really spell out anything with no lack of vowels. So because of the leitmotif quote, I've been really focused on runes, particularly Germanic runes, because leitmotif is a German word. This is my interpretation of the symbols. At the top here, I kind of blew it up and did some tilting to get to this image at the bottom and try to match those up. So certainly it looks like there's a pretty good match for S, or kind of the lightning bolt looking symbol. This Y looking symbol kind of looks like a backwards A. And I will say I'm taking some liberty with that symbol because in the Photoshop, it kind of looks like just a slash. But the way that it's colored, you could imagine that it's connected to either the inner dark line or the outer dark line. Maybe make a variety of different symbols. I'm kind of changing my tune here and turning it into this little kick out symbol, which could be an A. The other ones are more challenging. I think this upside down cup could translate into the U. But then I really don't know what to do with those little less than, greater than symbols. Problem is there's tons of different charts and different runes. So if you look at this chart on the left, maybe this greater than, less than symbol could correspond to a K or a C, but I don't know what to do with the other one necessarily. So that's where I'm at right now. Other things we've talked about are using the symbols because they match very nicely with the Hopi calendar. So for example, the upside down cup could match with the wheel chunks. The S and the line kind of match up with Hopi calendar if you use them either in the position where they are on the clock or in the orientation that they're given on the magnifying glass. They all kind of match, but what to do with that information, I just don't know. All right, I yield my time to Cody.
You just mentioned that, there's a million different possible runes depending on what chart you're referencing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also the symbols or runes that are on the magnifying glass are very simplistic to where it's like it could kind of fit a lot of things. Do you think it would be fair to say that the orientation that he drew them on the page should be their true orientation? I would kind of lean that way. And I'd feel comfortable leaning that way because I feel like the two runes that are like most obvious to me are the upside down cup one and the kind of sideways S one.
Agreed.
And both of those are oriented on the page the correct way.
Yeah.
So I feel like it would almost be unfair of him to be rotating these randomly when they're such simplistic shapes, because you can kind of do anything with them at that point. So I guess that would be my one follow-up comment on the rune thing.
Yeah, so if I take the digital book and I copy the runes exactly based on how they're oriented in the book, this is what you see in the top line, which is a little bit different on how you would translate them by eye, because you know that this magnifying glass is round. So take this second symbol, for example. Like, that looks a lot different than how I would interpret it from the magnifying glass. The angle's a lot more severe, where if you know this is on a round surface, it kind of looks like a 90-degree angle. But when you actually transcribe it, it turns into this very obtuse angle.
And then the first one's backwards. I think that's what was throwing me off there.
Oh yeah, it's backwards. Sorry. The second line down is the correct orientation.
So you're saying you think that you should kind of perception correct for the round surface, or you should not?
I don't know. I'm just pointing that out as a challenge.
Yeah.
What about, I know you're doing like German because of Leitmotiv, but what about like other Russian runes because of Fabergé?
That's a good question.
Do the Andvari runes?
Yeah, that I like Andvari as well. I was just focusing on trying to sift through pages and pages of images of runes. I just don't know how to do it.
Yeah. I feel like, I mean, even if they are runes, I feel like there's got to be something with their position on the circle.
Mm-hmm.
And like whether that be relating to time, because this is about the clock, or whether it's relating to the Hopi calendar. Like if there is this full circle ring theme, it's just the position of them is what kind of drives me nuts.
Yep. Agreed. I've been thinking about that a lot as well. Don't have a good answer for you.
I'll share just a couple of screens
Excellent.
on my PowerPoint because there's a lot of just overlap. Because I was just really, this was never meant to really be a PowerPoint presentation. I was sharing a lot of it just so I could manipulate the photos around. But in this one, I just took the same photos we've been looking at, but rotated the book one. Would that be 90 degrees? So it was like playing the same way, even though they're kind of tilted slightly differently. And I was really focusing in on, I guess, what we're calling the S and the potential Y.
Nice.
Because those are super prominent to me. So I think that just looking at it, I mean, you did a great job showing that it's pretty obvious that there is something on this photo that is not on the Sotheby's photo. But this is just another angle of it where it just seems so obvious. There's no way. Yeah, unless there's just no way. And then this is more zoom in. Another thing I saw, I can't tell if this so this photo I got on the right, I got from the digital edition, zooming as much as it would let me zoom, which was like a 400% enhancement. And it almost looks like there might be an inscription on the inside of the magnifying glass. I can't really tell if that's an inscription or if that is just like random dust residue. It's probably the kind of thing where even if it was an inscription, it's not something we'd be expected to find. But just something I noticed and thought was interesting. And then Bryn, speaking of your thinking it might have to do with the orientation, I pulled up a grid and graphed this out, ideally with pretty close to the correct angles, because when I was eyeballing it against the one thing I eyeball everything against, which is the Hopi calendar, it seemed like it might line up well. So this is what I came up with. This is actually the second time I did it. The first time it was even closer, and I feel like there's definitely a few degrees of tolerance there, just because of, again, the way that the magnifying glass is photographed. But I had focused in on the S and the slash or the Y and noticed that it seemed like if you had the handle at 6 o'clock over the Hopi calendar and you had it sized to the same size, that it might point right along that kind of transition from Katsina season into non-Katsina season line. It is pretty close, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that one. At first, I was really excited when I eyeballed it, because just eyeballing it, it looked like it was dead on. Um, yeah. Anyway, I had a bunch of other slides too, but I think it's a lot of redundant stuff with what you'd already presented. You did a better job than I would.
Okay, you don't have any other goodies in there that are different. I'm happy to
There's
chat.
a lot of just
magnifying glass. Okay,
a lot of just different different photos and zooming in and rotations of the same pictures of the magnifying glass and everything.
right.
I think I really do like your rune take though. It's just a matter of, it goes back to just feeling like without some direction, it's just check every option and there's just so many options.
Yeah, I like your idea with the Russian Bryn because of Fabergé. Good call.
This could be another one to check at least.
Yeah. Anyway, if you have any more ideas, audience, on the magnifying glass, love to hear it. I don't see a lot of chatter about it online, so maybe everybody has it solved and just doesn't tell me.
Maybe when you're searching for people's conversations, you really should be searching for hand lens.
A hand lens, yes. Good call.
JCB calls it a hand lens in the book, and I was like, I've never heard the term hand lens before.
Because it's part of the hand theme. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Probably.
Because you mentioned it, I will also call out to hold a Japanese puzzle box in your hand and would ensure each working component was made by hand.
Hand theme.
And theme.
Right. Who wants to go next? I kind of took over with the magnifying glass talk. Do you want me to do another one, or Bryn, are you ready? Or you just did hand?
I can go. I can
Okay.
go. So the botanical theme, there's a budding joy. The Fabergé brand rose to prominence.
Oh yeah.
Much of my admiration stems, and then cultivate happiness.
Yeah, I thought that budding joy one was pretty big. Because we know that joy is like his big keyword throughout the whole book, and to use budding with joy just felt very very, very on theme for any of the botanical thing.
Totally.
Does botanical link overall to the butterfly, to the metamorphosis? Is this all about pollination? And the reason I think about this is because the Katsinas, and linking the Hopi calendar to all of this, is like a lot of the Katsinas are about crop growing and pollinating crops. I'm just trying to combine themes here.
That is probably when I think of it all, like that is what it branches into. Like, so that is probably the most appropriate overarching theme would be this. Yeah. Growing pollination.
Roots.
Whatever you just said.
I'm going to go next. Roots.
Nice.
Do you know what what Hakone means in Japanese?
I even looked it up and I can't remember.
It means box root. That's crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're talking about treasure boxes, and we have those roots references in the previous two chapters, and the plant references now. Like, is that just a coincidence of the day that Hakone means box root or box base?
That's pretty crazy.
So the root of all the boxes, Hakone maybe is more important than we thought.
I would believe it for sure.
So Hakone is a Japanese mountain resort famous for hot springs and Mount Fuji views, with its name meaning box root or base of the box, referring to its location in a box-like volcanic caldera. It's a popular tourist spot with rich history, volcanic landscapes, Lake Ashi, shrines, and world-class museums. I'll dive into the roadmap theory.
Go for it.
So thinking about our West Coast ideas, I tried to find places that incorporate Japanese words into their place names in the United States. Supposedly there is a Mount Fuji in California, located in Los Angeles National Forest, in the San Gabriel Mountains. There's also a Mount Fuji that I found in Oregon. And in Washington, there's Sakuramura, which is a small unincorporated community near White Pass, with a name meaning Cherry Blossom Village. I like that because of the plant theme, the cultivation theme, and the cherry blossom image in the George Washington chapter. Just like that.
It feels like it would be like a lot more if we're actually picking another spot. Like I think that we're gonna have to need more than that though.
Mm-hmm. And we might get that as we go through more chapters. I'm just throwing out ideas, trying to make connections for the next stage of the roadmap. And maybe it's already getting zoomed in, right? I don't know. There's also a Fuji Mountain Trail in Washington State near Snoqualmie that may be named due to the shape of an adjacent peak. And then there's Mount St. Helens, Washington. While not a Japanese name, its shape before its 1980 eruption often drew comparisons to Mount Fuji, leading it to be nicknamed Mount Fuji of America.
That's really interesting.
It's got a handful of options if we're thinking the 101, Highway 101 roadmap is interesting. Like I said, I'm kind of focused in on confirmation bias on that right now and just tried to make some connections with the strong emphasis on Japan in the first part of this chapter.
I'm all for the confirmation bias. I feel like it's the one thread we really have to pull right now, so I'm all for it.
All right, I yield. Cody?
Yeah, I'll do one. So last episode, I mentioned that in chapter 1, he said there spread out across his floor was a street map of Los Angeles. Talk about just treasure map. And then in chapter 2, it said Angor's landmass was the size of Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was interesting. Now we're in chapter 3, and he says Tokyo is the most populated city in the world. Its landmass is enormous.
Okay,
I feel like
so
those are
you're making the connections here.
Very on the nose about the land masses of things.
Yeah, remember I did my whole physics mass situation last chapter?
No, this is my idea.
There's something with mass there. Why does he keep using mass? Like mass was, very forced in chapter 2. So I was surprised to see it carried over to chapter 3 as well.
Yeah. Mass or even more specifically land mass, or less specifically, maybe it is just mass. But to talk about Los Angeles and then say Angkor's land mass was the same size as Los Angeles, and then the next chapter reference Tokyo's enormous land mass, it just feels like there's something there that's not coincidence. He's trying to say something.
Totally. Don't have to convince me.
I also want to do a 36,000 foot view take, and that is that I'm on board with something that Blake said a few episodes ago, which is I feel like in my second read through, I'm definitely finding more things that I feel like are valid in Jon's normal kind of talkings about his own life and less about like specific historical facts. That seems to like really be standing out to me more and more the more that I reread the chapters.
Nice. Me too.
Yeah, it feels a little bit more approachable in general as well, which is very nice. I would like to touch on the numbers. Trains every 3 minutes, 5-star restaurants, the 7-Elevens, And then he even says the 6-sided box. Like, isn't it obvious?
No.
Wait.
So I'm on board with the 3 minutes, the 5-star restaurant, and the 7-Eleven, because those are all
Yeah.
prime numbers.
Oh. So you think 6-sided box is just
I
a
couldn't
6-sided box?
I couldn't fit that in. Why did you why did you think it was obvious? What did you think was obvious?
Well, I think why was he going out of his way to describe it as a 6-sided box?
I see.
Lest we get it confused with a 7-sided box.
Right.
Yeah. And he talked early on about in chapter 1 about the 6-sided emerald as well. A point to say that. But
I totally didn't pick up on the prime numbers though.
I thought that was a new goodie that I was very excited about, but it kind of gets sunk if you take the numbers after that, which there's like dozens, and I think your quote on the 6-sided box, that's nearby, right?
Well, the trains every 3 minutes. I mean, those are like their own. That's like a chunk though. So I totally would buy those being prime numbers for the sake of being prime numbers.
Is it a coincidence? It's the first.
I don't think so.
You think it is? How do you think it's prime numbers are a coincidence there?
Sorry, I was caught up on the 6-sided thing.
Oh.
So yeah, chapter 1, he said a sapphire in its original 6-sided crystalline form is rare. And then this one with the 6-sided box, but it doesn't look like there's any other something sided references in the book, which is what I was hoping for.
Okay.
I only got a little sucked into that one because I was reading some things today from TTI where they were referencing dice.
Mm-hmm.
So it made my spidey senses tingle for a sec.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look at the location of where all your prime numbers are to know if I feel good about them or if it's just
I can read it to you in about 10 seconds because they're that close together.
Yeah.
So he's talking about Tokyo. Its skylines are spectacular. There is no pollution, little traffic, and almost no noise. Subways run seemingly everywhere with trains that arrive every 3 minutes. They are never late. Eat at a 5-star restaurant or visit a local 7-Eleven, and you can expect the same politeness and similar quality of service. They are just like bang, bang, bang within 2 lines.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. I think that could be something. Especially since we already know or think that he is doing similar things in other chapters. I guess I'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm. In the the Michael Jordan chapter, we've talked at length about the triangular numbers.
Yep.
So is this just another hint to look at specific number patterns? I don't know if it's not satisfying, but it seems too unlikely to just be a coincidence. His friend suggested I go to Japan. When he said this, I stared blankly at him for a moment, which is kind of a callback to that Mount Rushmore discussion that we had last week about Brian staring stone-faced at him. It wasn't stone-faced, but kind of the same term.
Yes. Yeah, same idea.
Mm-hmm. That's a quick one. Cody, you want to go next?
Yeah, I picked up on the 6,000 nautical miles or 40 miles northeast. Just mostly jumped out to me, I guess, because they're numbers. And then I did some looking into nautical miles and something interesting, as we had talked before about kind of minutes and seconds. And minutes and seconds play into nautical miles, where historically it was defined as the meridian arc length corresponding to 1 minute of latitude at the equator. So we had talked about minutes and seconds before, so it's another one of those. This one, however, is an arc-based minute, I think, right? Which is why I was so confused last time.
Mhm.
So I did a little looking into that, and then also found it of note that he would say nautical mile. It seems strange to do nautical miles in the first place. And then
Yes.
the unit symbol for nautical miles is NM, which is also an abbreviation for a state. So maybe there's some connection there.
Interesting.
Ooh.
Yay.
I'll be keeping an eye out for other kind of like strange units
Hmm.
that I can check the abbreviations on and see if it's corresponds with anything else that's obvious or other states or something.
And
That's a good call.
If you have the searchable book up right now, Cody, can you search for Asheville? Asheville.
Yeah, I know he says it a few times. Meanwhile, about 6,000 nautical miles east of Japan and 40 miles northeast of Asheville, North Carolina.
Yes.
So that one we know about. That's this chapter.
Is there a mention of Asheville before that is what I'm curious about.
Not coming with any other mentions of Asheville anywhere.
That was I didn't have time to look. I forgot. But that was my question is why does he pinpoint Asheville and then go to Bakersville or Bakersfield after that? It seems like a random reference.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's right. Because he's from
Statesville.
Hmm.
Does anybody know where the University of North Carolina is?
No.
It is in Chapel Hill?
That sounds right.
That sounds right. Anyway, the other weird thing was in chapter 2, he never mentioned where he went to college. But it mentions the Tar Heel Daily, which indicates that it would be University of North Carolina. There's weird North Carolina things happening, and I don't know why. So why did he say 6,000 nautical miles east and say Asheville just randomly? What does Asheville have to do with anything? 6,000 nautical miles east of Japan and 40 miles northeast of Asheville, North Carolina. Why?
Yeah, so I mean, is
Maybe-
there a specific number he's trying to use for like Asheville is a certain mileage
Yeah.
away from where he's talking? Like, what is that number then?
Maybe Asheville is on the exact line of latitude from Hakone. Anyway, I'm throwing out a lot of questions, not answers.
Yeah,
Occam's
That's
razor as a West Coast person.
Yeah.
Maybe Asheville is like a well-known area and Bakersville is not. So it'd be like saying 6,000 nautical miles from Seattle,
Mm-hmm.
but then and then name something like a small town no one's heard of, like 40 miles from that or something.
It could be.
I'm checking on that right now.
Anyway,
Asheville.
North Carolina
It's a good
weirdness.
question,
And maybe it's because he's from there. He doesn't, and he wrote the book, right? He's just kind of orienting himself with familiarity, but maybe not necessarily considering the reader wouldn't know these reference points. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm 50-50 because it does seem weird, but pretty much I had the exact same thought basically that he's from North Carolina. And so these seem like normal ways of phrasing things to him. So I did just look it up. Asheville has a population of basically 100,000. And Bakersville has a population of like 500. So
Okay.
it could be that he's like, here's a town
well,
that people would know about, and then reference the other one that's nearby.
I could
think I
buy
would
that.
argue 100,000 isn't necessarily a fair geographical reference in a nationwide book.
But again, if he's from North Carolina,
I don't think he's going to have that kind of blinders. I think there's something more to it.
Yeah. I mean, the nautical miles points a finger at being odd already. And then
Yeah.
the extra 40 miles, cares? 40 miles compared to 6,000 northeast. There's something
Well,
to
the
that.
40, yeah.
Roadmap.
Yeah.
Solved.
There's very important significance, I would say, to that
Anyway, I need to look
sequence.
at I need to look at the map a little bit to see if there's exact latitude, but he doesn't say 6,000 nautical miles east of Hakone. He says Japan, which it's not that helpful if we're trying to pinpoint something.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the North Carolina comment I forgot. Remember the Michael Jordan chapter? Michael Jordan went to University of North Carolina. Jon Collins-Black never mentions like my alma mater, like the school I went to, anything like that. And he talks about the university in a couple of the paragraphs. Again, it's kind of like, why is he omitting his connection to University of North Carolina except for the mention of the Daily Tar Heel? Just seems like an odd omission that he would have a couple places to give us information on where he went to school.
And then he definitely plays up he mentions talking to Seth Gould about like, oh, I was made sure to mention I was from here. You know, we had this commonality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird discrepancy.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
All right, who's next?
I have a little nugget here.
Okay.
The finer points of detail. And in chapter 2, he said, from the finer points, beauty emerges.
Excellent.
What are the finer points?
That one I had that one very much highlighted.
Yeah, I was gonna try to build that into the magnifying glass, right? Because those photoshops are definitely very fine in terms of being small, right? So from the finer points, beauty emerges. Fortunately, I did not see beauty emerge from any of my runic translations yet.
I mean, I would think maybe finer points is somehow tied into this growing botanical pollen, like beauty emerges, a flower emerging from what is this finer point? I guess I'm kind of viewing it within that context.
I think there was another mention of point or finer, and I can't find it right now. I was just trying to track it down. Anyway, you said you must slide its panels to discover the way in. Talked about that kind of in association with the Pokemon box, but slide its panels. That indicates maybe some sort of Mad magazine, some sort of manipulation of the Hopi calendar, manipulation of other things. Exactly what you just talked about during Discord Detectives, but I'm thinking about other images that you could apply that to. Maybe line up the underlined letters with the Hopi calendar. Again, that would involve cutting, so I don't know if you'd like that, but hit pollination as a theme. We talked about that already. Okay, go ahead, Cody.
Just want to re-emphasize anytime that he tells us to go look into something, feels very on the nose of like something we should look into then. So on page 43, he says, as for the precise artistry of our magnifying glass, I won't spend time explaining the intricacies of Perkins Gold. Oh, Lord. Rochelle foliate pattern that adorns it, nor the specific techniques with which it was made. You can investigate on your own if you'd like. However, Michael Perkins' life story is certainly worth at least a few words. So something you can investigate on your own if you'd like. He does that a few times in the book. And it seems very notable when he does do that.
Intentional, yeah.
Intentional. So is that also a hint to be looking not at the techniques, like the history of his techniques in general, which would be not using only the book, but is it a hint at literally look at the techniques and intricacies of the magnifying glass on the image? That's probably one you highlighted in the PowerPoint presentation already, now that I'm thinking of it.
I don't know if I did highlight that one. That's a good catch.
Yeah. I think my big takeaway from this chapter is magnifying glass. I think when you guys initially brought it up, I was not super on board because it was just too small. But now I can't unsee it. And now it just seems so obvious, even like when I look at it in paper, like it's just obviously there.
Obvi.
It's obvi. All right, I got a quickie. At the top of page 41, I sourced boxes for weeks. I scoured every auction house. Interesting that sourced and scoured are anagrams of each other.
Oh,
I don't know if that's anything. If
that's
it's a
super
coincidence,
interesting.
but using that same sentence structure, I sourced versus I scoured, I don't know, seems like it's kind of blaring. Are there little wordplay things we have to worry about now?
Oh no. I'm not even opening that can of worms right now.
Yeah.
That's a really good find though. Nice
Thanks.
one. Kind of a theme of teaching maybe is what I'm calling this. But the most entertaining and teachable Fabergé egg story belongs to that of the third imperial egg. And then he also says, the journey of this egg gives us an erudite lesson, and that is having or showing great knowledge or learning. So that, I mean, using that word, maybe I just don't have a complex enough vocabulary, but it felt a little forced to me. And then to see kind of has a tie with the teachable Fabergé egg. This teachable also seemed like an interesting word choice.
It's a good one. Good catch. Did not put that one together. Very good.
Yeah. I do remember having somewhat extensive conversations about erudite the first time that we did this chapter recap. It's funny that one word is stuck with me for what, 10, 11 months.
I don't remember that at all. I've got more unless you guys can keep going too.
I'll highlight a quick one at the bottom of page 40. From the jump, I wanted each treasure box to be as original, desirable, and well crafted as any treasure item they would hold. So I'm just obsessed with the North Carolina connection now. From the jump, that's like a basketball term, I think.
Oh,
Like from the jump, like the start of the game. Is it
From
another is it another connection to the Michael Jordan chapter? I mean, the Michael Jordan chapter is the other spot that we see those weird number patterns with the triangular numbers. See a lot of North Carolina talk in the Michael Jordan chapter. It's a stretch, but I wanted to point it out in case it was a thing.
I've just seen theories online before of like chapter pairings where like two chapters are meant to go together and like pair up different chapters throughout the book. I'm not fully sold on them, but I see where you're coming from, that like there's a lot of similarities to a lot of the things in the Michael Jordan chapter.
my connection with From the Jump was the chapter with the guy jumping out of the way of was it a buffalo?
Okay.
I like your connection a lot more.
No, that's a good call.
Especially with like a North Carolina connection.
Asheville. Ooh, that one's gonna hurt my brain for a little bit.
At least it's like tangible things, right? Like we can look at a map and think about it. It's not too abstract.
Yeah.
We also had Perkin redrew the limits of what jeweled art might encompass. So compass is what stood out to me.
Excellent.
When we think about compass rose and navigation in our map.
Yeah, I think I'm about spent here. Anybody have other ones? You have more, Bryn?
Yeah. The skylines are spectacular, talking about Tokyo. So if we're thinking about like
Ripped
travel and
pages.
aviation, well, we could be thinking about ripped pages. But also like if we're thinking about our map and connecting points and like we have this air travel, airplanes, there's a skyline like as the bird flies. I don't know. Is there something there? The sky and lines definitely seems like there could be meaning with our map.
Yeah, it got deleted from my list, but I had eclipses over in parentheses after that line.
Oh, nice. I did
Skylines.
not even think.
And the
Yes.
arcs, the sun was an arc kind of that we learned about in the next chapter.
That's
And
a really good thought.
If nautical miles had to do with arcs,
Yes, I
was
like that.
Solved. What else do I have?
or any arc from the Joyce Serenade.
Mm-hmm.
It's hidden in a McDonald's. There's 2 arcs.
I mean, do all of those connect to St. Louis with the St. Louis Arch? Maybe. I like St. Louis.
Yeah, there's a lot of St. Louis connections. That's another one that's kind of cart and horse to me, where it's like it feels like there's a lot of connections to St. Louis, but also is St. Louis just a place where there has historically been a lot of things happening? Kind of like how it feels like everything connects back to France.
France, yeah.
But just because France has been like a cultural center for so long that there just are a million ties historically to it.
Could be.
All right, how about this one? Japanese culture allowed me an opportunity to bask in qualities more refined. This reminded me of Joy's Serenade, and if you spy others warming in the sunlight, which at first when I read that line, I'm like, oh, he totally says basking in Joy's Serenade.
I thought he did too.
No.
I thought he did too.
Wait, where's basking in the heavens? Where does that come into play?
That's in the past and future box.
That's
You're right.
that's it. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Of.
I thought it was in Joy's
So, yeah.
Serenade when I read it too. Whoops. I'm glad you looked.
Yes. So it was warming in the sunlight
Okay,
is
shoot.
my connection to Joy's Serenade.
Say your Basque one again.
Japanese culture allowed me an opportunity to bask in qualities more refined.
I was trying to find Basques, and I think this is just a coincidence that now I'm just getting nothing but basketball from
Basketball.
the Michael Jordan chapter.
From the jump.
From the jump.
To boot. Did
What
anybody see
else?
that one?
Yep. That's exactly where I was going next.
Do you have the full context of that? I lost mine.
I just wrote a few for ourselves to boot. I think he was
Oh.
talking about buying the puzzle boxes to bring home as gifts.
Exactly. Boots on the ground. Solved.
To boot.
How about doled out compliments?
Oh, I didn't pick up on that.
I don't know what to make of it. I just thought it was funny because it made me think of Dole Whip.
Yum. How about the grind had worn me down?
I like that one. I didn't write it down though because I wasn't sure.
I mean,
Ooh,
it seems like with the chisel cuts, and like they kind of just on theme with that, right?
Yeah.
All right, I got another note that I can add on to your chisel cuts, and the grind had worn me down.
Hmm.
However, this endeavor had made me more well-rounded for the effort. What is this? What is this you're coming up with on the fly? Well-rounded, ground down.
I mean, when he goes back to telling us to look into how that pattern is made on the magnifying glass, this is it, right? Like you have to
clues towards that.
Yeah, like maybe there really is something really significant to that actual process that we're supposed to be looking into.
What did they do? They probably filed it back in those days. I guess we got to look into it.
And you're gonna have to do some research. You're gonna have to put it in your search bar in your computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, with those other references that we're coming up with, I think that might be something that he is wanting us to look at.
And it might argue towards your argument, Bryn, that the position of those symbols matters on the circle of the magnifying glass.
From the well-rounded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The placement can't be random, in my opinion.
Ground down, as well as potentially a roots reference.
Yeah, that's good. I think we also need to acknowledge quibble versus squabble. Like they're both very trivial things, right?
Are both of those words in this chapter?
Mm-hmm. It was like they didn't realize what they were quibbling about or squabbling over, or something like that, back to back.
Mm-hmm.
So no idea what to make of that, but it felt like he had to be emphasizing something there, whether it's something with the roots of those words, if it's something about something being trivial, it's, who knows, maybe I'm overthinking it. Also could be an option.
All right, we're getting to flakes. So
Yep.
Anything goes. I'm
I forgot.
out.
I forgot carried a certain knowing. That goes with my hand theme. Count it.
Count it.
Okay, my last one is I now better understand the way the granular makes the whole.
That made me think more of the plant reference, the agriculture granular, like a grain of rice, but I might have been taking that the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm thinking of it through as like focus on like the very small details, right? So is there something kind of metaphorical here that we're supposed to be considering?
Mm-hmm. Right. Last call for nuggets and or dust at this point.
Dust.
Case closed. All right. But look for more thoughtful analysis of chapter 4 next episode. Just over 2 hours, so it's a long one. Sorry, everyone.
Oh gosh.
But we'll wrap it up. Any parting thoughts, or should we log off?
I need to go eat a snack.
All right, we're logging off. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Searching for clues